She cut his palm in the duel. The runes glowed and her clan fell to its knees. The night sky above the alien world was alive with strange lights, pale blue arcs that drifted like rivers across the heavens. The ground beneath was carved stone, smooth from centuries of footsteps, the arena where warriors came to prove strength and settle matters of honor. On this night it was silent, filled only with the breaths of the clan who had gathered to witness something rare. A duel was called, and the stakes were higher than most could imagine. The human stood at the center, his boots pressing against ancient lines carved in the floor. He was an outsider, not born of their blood, not tied to their traditions, yet he had been drawn into their law. The challenge was made, and he had no choice but to stand. The alien girl stepped forward, her blade a shimmering piece of metal that caught the firelight. She was not older than him, yet there was steel in her eyes. Around her the clan murmured, whispering of her skill, whispering of her burden. The duel began without trumpet or shout. A single step forward, the girl moved fast, blade flashing in her hand. The human raised his arm too late, and the sharp edge cut across his palm. The strike was not deep, not enough to cripple, but blood flowed freely. The crowd leaned forward, waiting for him to stagger, to cry out, to admit defeat. Instead, something else happened. The blood shimmered as it hit the floor. Strange shapes spread across his palm, curling upward like fire tracing invisible lines. The human gasped and looked down. The cut glowed with light, not red but gold, a runic pattern rising on his skin. The girl stepped back, her breath caught in her throat. Around the arena, silence fell. Warriors who had laughed only a moment ago lowered their heads, eyes wide with disbelief. The runes burned brighter, spreading from his palm to his forearm. The human tried to close his fist, but the marks only grew, winding like serpents made of light. He felt warmth, a deep hum that filled his chest as though the air itself had changed around him. The clan dropped to their knees one after another, as if compelled by a force older than memory. Even the girl who had cut him stood frozen, her blade lowered. Her clan whispered one word, repeated over and over in fear. Prophecy. The human did not understand. He looked at them, then at his hand, then back at them. He wanted to ask what was happening, why their eyes were filled with terror, but no voice left his throat. The hum inside him grew heavier, stronger, like a weight he could not hold. He swayed on his feet, and the runes pulsed as if alive. The silence broke with the sound of the elders, old figures cloaked in black stepping into the arena. Their voices were grave as they spoke in their tongue, warning of power that should never return, of ancient oaths carved in stone and blood. The girl fell to one knee without thinking, the blade slipping from her fingers. Her eyes lifted toward him, but she no longer saw just a man. She saw the symbol their stories had promised, the one who would decide the fate of her people, and yet he was only human, an outsider with no knowledge of their history, standing with fear in his eyes and blood on his hand. The runes glowed brighter still, and with each pulse the clan pressed their foreheads closer to the ground, unable to resist the weight of it. The human clenched his jaw, forcing himself not to fall. He did not know if he should run or fight or simply collapse. All he knew was that a single cut had changed everything. The duel had only begun, but the world around him had already fallen to its knees. The arena did not sound like an arena anymore. It sounded like a temple. The air was thick with whispers, the kind of whispers that turned into prayers. The clan knelt as one body, their heads pressed down against the cold stone. Their armor clinked, their blades tapped the ground, yet not a single one of them rose. The duel had ended the moment the blood lit with gold, but the human could not understand why. To him it was only pain, only confusion, yet to them it was something sacred. He looked at his palm again. The runes still burned, spiraling in shapes too perfect to be random. They shifted, glowed, and then settled like a language written into his skin. He wanted to shake it off, to rub it away, but the marks were no longer wounds. They had become a part of him, fused into his flesh as though they had always been there. Every breath he took made them pulse. Every beat of his heart pushed their glow brighter. He clenched his jaw and looked to the girl. She was kneeling now, her eyes wide, her face caught between awe and fear. The elders moved slowly into the center, their black robes dragging across the carved lines of the arena floor. Their faces were hidden under hoods, but their voices carried through the silence. They spoke words that the human did not know, but the crowd seemed to understand well. Each syllable dropped like a stone into still water, and with each word the kneeling grew deeper, the fear more visible. Finally, one elder raised a hand and pointed at the human. His voice was sharper now, translated into a tongue the human could understand. "The prophecy awakens," he said. "The one who bears the runes has come." The human shook his head. He wanted to speak, to deny, to tell them he had no part in this, but his voice caught. He felt the warmth in his arm climb into his chest, reaching toward his heart. The runes pulsed again, and for a brief moment he saw flashes. A battlefield under alien suns, rivers of fire, ships breaking in the sky, faces of beings he had never seen but somehow knew. He stumbled back, clutching his arm, his breath ragged. The vision was gone in an instant, but it left him shaking. The girl rose slowly, not daring to meet his eyes. She turned toward the elders and asked, her voice thin but steady, "What does it mean?" The elder closest to her lowered his hood, his face old and marked with scars. His eyes glowed faintly, the same way the runes glowed on the human's arm. He spoke slowly, as though each word carried weight that could not be lifted. "It means the blood of the stranger carries the seal," he said. "The seal of the one who was promised, the one who brings the clan to its knees." The crowd shuddered. Some bowed lower, while others trembled as though resisting the urge to flee. The girl gripped her blade again, though she did not raise it. Her heart pounded in her chest. She had cut his palm. She had drawn the blood that revealed the truth. If the prophecy was real, then she was the one who had awakened it. The human finally found his voice. "I do not know your prophecy," he said, his words breaking the silence. "I do not know what this means. I am no one to you," but his denial did not matter. The clan did not rise. The runes still glowed. The prophecy, once sealed in words and stone, now breathed through him. The elders turned to the girl. "You will guard him," the oldest one said. "Your blade has chosen him. Your hand has awakened what should have slept." Her lips parted, but no sound came. Guard him? Protect him? He was the enemy she had dueled, the outsider who stood against her clan. Yet the weight of the command pressed on her shoulders like chains. She lowered her head and answered in the only way she could. "Yes." The human stared at her, confusion written across his face. "Guard me?" he asked. "From what?" But no one answered. The elders turned back toward the crowd, raising their hands. "Rise," they commanded. The clan rose, but not as warriors. They rose as believers, their eyes never leaving the human. Some were filled with fear, others with hope, but all were bound by the same force. The arena was no longer a place of duels. It had become a place of revelation. The human's heart raced. He did not ask for this. He did not want it. Yet as he looked at the runes burning across his skin, he knew that no denial would change what had begun. The girl's blade had cut more than flesh. It had cut open fate itself. And somewhere, far beyond the stars above, something stirred as if it had been waiting for this moment. The human did not sleep that night. He sat alone in the chamber they had given him, walls made of black stone that hummed faintly as though alive. The glow of the runes did not fade. Every time he closed his eyes, they burned brighter, filling the room with a faint gold light. He pressed his palm against the floor, hoping the glow would stop, but the marks only grew warmer, as if feeding on his breath. His mind was restless. He thought of his home far away, of the quiet life he had once lived, and he knew he would never return to it. The girl stood outside the chamber door, her blade resting against her shoulder. She had been told to guard him, and she obeyed, but her heart was heavy. She had cut his flesh, and now her clan believed she had also cut open destiny. She leaned against the cold wall, her eyes never leaving the door. She told herself she was only following orders, but she could not shake the weight pressing against her chest. When the elders called them at dawn, the air inside the great hall was different. The clan had gathered again, though this time their heads were not bowed. They looked at him with suspicion, with fear, and with a strange kind of respect. The elders stood at the front, their robes heavy with dust and age. One of them spoke in a voice that filled the hall. "The runes are awake," he said, "and with them the burden of memory. He must be tested." The human clenched his fists. "Tested how?" The elder's gaze pierced through him. "The runes do not belong to you alone. They belong to all. If you are the one written in the prophecy, you will endure. If you are not, the runes will consume you." At those words, the runes burned hotter, as though hearing the challenge. Pain shot through his arm, sharp and deep, and he fell to one knee. The clan murmured in shock, but the elders did not move. The girl rushed forward, her blade still at her side, and knelt beside him. Her hand hovered as though she wished to help, but she dared not touch him. The golden light spread across his chest. racing in lines like veins of fire, and he gasped as visions filled his head. He saw armies marching under strange banners, alien voices chanting in unison, skies torn apart by war. He saw a figure standing tall in the middle of it all, cloaked in light, the runes covering every inch of their body. That figure raised their hand and entire fleets crumbled into ash. The vision shifted, and he saw the same figure alone in the ruins of a broken world, kneeling in silence. The human's body trembled, sweat ran down his face, his teeth clenched against the pain. The girl placed her hand on his shoulder without thinking, and for a moment the glow softened. Her eyes widened as she saw fragments of the vision too. She pulled back in shock, but the connection had already been made. The elders nodded slowly. He sees, he carries the memory. The burden is his now. The human staggered to his feet, his breathing sharp. He looked at the girl, then at the crowd. "I never asked for this," he said. His voice was raw, filled with anger and fear. "I do not want your prophecy. I do not want your burden." But the runes pulsed again as if mocking his words. The clan lowered their eyes, but not in shame. They lowered them because the truth was clear. He could deny it all he wanted, but the power would not let him go. That night the girl followed him as he wandered the halls of the fortress. He stopped at a window, staring at the alien sky, his arm still glowing faintly. She stepped closer, her voice quiet. "They will not let you leave now," she said. He turned his head sharply. "And you? Will you keep me prisoner too?" Her gaze faltered, but she held it. "I was told to guard you. I was told to obey. But when I touched you, I saw what you saw. The ruin, the fire. If that is truly what the prophecy means, then maybe none of us are safe." The human's eyes narrowed. Then why kneel? Why follow them at all? She looked down at her blade, then back at him. "Because it is all we know. Our history is carved in stone. Our lives are ruled by it. You are not the first to hate the burden, but you are the first to carry it." Silence stretched between them. The hum of the fortress seemed louder, like a distant heart beating through the stone. The human pressed his glowing palm against the wall, and for an instant the runes in the stone responded, lighting up with the same golden pattern. He pulled back in shock, his breath caught in his throat. The girl stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Do you see? It is not only you. The world itself answers to the runes. You cannot walk away now, even if you want to." He closed his eyes, the weight of her words pressing down on him. He had come as a stranger, an outsider caught in a duel he never wanted. But now, he was bound to something far greater, something older than their world. The burden of the runes was his, and he could feel it deep in his bones. And somewhere in the darkness of the clan's fortress, others were already whispering of rebellion. The fortress was no longer calm. Whispers filled every hall, whispers that carried both hope and hate. The human walked through narrow passages with the girl always a few steps behind, her blade at her side. Everywhere they went, eyes followed them. Some eyes lowered in fear, others narrowed with quiet anger. The clan had knelt to the runes, but kneeling did not mean loyalty. It only meant surrender, and surrender was not the same as belief. At the council chamber, the elders argued behind heavy doors. Their voices echoed into the hall where guards stood silent. The human leaned against the wall, his palm glowing faintly even when covered. He could hear fragments of their voices. Some called him the savior, the return of a forgotten protector. Others called him the herald of ruin, a curse that would bring their walls crashing down. The words clashed like swords, and the silence that followed each shout was heavier than the noise itself. The girl watched him closely. She saw the way his shoulders carried weight that was not his own. She saw how he flinched when the runes pulsed, how his jaw tightened when he caught their stares. She wanted to speak, to tell him something that would ease his burden, but her own doubts held her tongue. She was still the one who cut his palm. She was still the one who made the prophecy come alive. When the doors opened, the elders filed out, their faces unreadable. The oldest among them stopped before the human. "The clan is divided," he said. "Some will follow, some will resist. You are the center of this storm, whether you will it or not." The human's voice was low. "And if I walk away?" The elder's eyes flickered toward the glow of the runes. "You cannot. The world itself has already chosen you. If you flee, the power will follow, and it will destroy whatever stands in its path." The words hung heavy. The girl's breath caught, but she said nothing. The human turned his head, staring into the shadows of the hall, and deep inside he felt the truth of it. The runes pulsed like a second heart, one that did not beat for him alone. That night, fires burned in the lower levels of the fortress. Rebels rose against the elders, claiming the prophecy was a lie, claiming the human was a weapon meant to enslave them. The sound of steel rang through the corridors. The human and the girl were caught in the chaos as warriors rushed past, some to protect them, others to kill them. The girl drew her blade without hesitation. Her eyes blazed with fury as she cut down those who came too close. The human pressed his glowing hand to the wall, and again the runes in the stone lit up. The air shook as if the fortress itself was alive. Some rebels screamed and fled when they saw it, their fear too great to face. Others roared and pressed forward, blades flashing under the torchlight. The human stumbled backward, overwhelmed by the weight of it all. He had never wanted battle, yet battle had come to him. He felt the runes pushing inside him, urging him to fight, to unleash what burned within. His breath quickened, his vision blurred, and before he could stop himself, a surge of golden light exploded from his palm. The shockwave threw warriors to the ground. Walls cracked. The floor trembled. The girl turned in shock, her blade still raised as she saw the human standing at the center of the blast, his body glowing with patterns of light. His eyes burned gold, his arm covered in runes that reached toward his chest. The fighting stopped. For a single breath, the hall was silent, broken only by the sound of stone crumbling. The rebels stared in fear. Some dropped their weapons and fled. Others fell to their knees again, just as they had in the arena. The girl lowered her blade slowly, her heart pounding in her chest. She looked at him not as a prisoner, not as an enemy, but as something she could not name. She had seen him bleed, she had seen him stumble, and now she had seen him wield a force that even her people feared. When the elders arrived, their faces were pale with both awe and dread. "It has begun," one whispered. The human's voice shook as he spoke. "I never wanted this. I never asked for this." The elder stepped closer, his voice hard. "It does not matter what you want. The runes do not ask permission. They only demand." The girl's grip tightened on her blade. She stepped forward, standing between the human and the elders. Her voice cut through the hall. "Then demand of him what you will, but know this. He is no longer yours alone to command. If he must bear the runes, then I will bear them beside him." The elders fell silent. The human looked at her, stunned by the weight of her words. For the first time since the duel, he felt something other than fear. He felt that maybe he was not completely alone. But deep within the fortress, beyond stone and shadow, something else stirred. The runes on his skin pulsed with new rhythm, and the ground itself seemed to breathe. The clan was divided. The girl had chosen her place, and the human was no longer a stranger. He was the storm they could not stop. The fortress had survived the night, but silence did not mean safety. Ash from the fires drifted through the halls, and the scent of smoke clung to every corner. The human sat on the edge of the broken steps, his palm glowing faintly as though the runes refused to rest. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, and in the glow of dawn he looked less like a man and more like a shadow of something greater. The girl stood near him, her blade sheathed, but her hand never far from it. She had not slept, not even for a moment. She watched him as though she was waiting for the light to vanish or for the runes to consume him completely. She thought of the prophecy, the stories told to her as a child, the warnings carved in stone deep within the mountain. None of them had ever said the bearer of the runes would be human. None of them had prepared her for this. The elders gathered in the great hall once again, their voices grave, their robes torn from the struggle of the night before. The clan filled the chamber, every face drawn with fear or hunger for truth. No one spoke of rebellion now, but the silence carried more danger than shouts. The oldest elder raised his hand, and all eyes turned toward the human. "The prophecy cannot be denied," he said. "The runes have chosen. But choice alone is not destiny. The bearer must face the trial, or the world will fall." The words spread through the hall like fire. The trial. Even the youngest of the clan knew the name. It was the test of death and truth, a ritual no one had survived in living memory. The girl's hand tightened into a fist. She looked at the human, and though she said nothing, her eyes begged him not to agree. But the runes pulsed against his skin, and with each glow came a weight that pressed deeper into his bones. He rose slowly, his voice steady though his heart raced. "If this trial is the only way to end your fear, then I will face it." Gasps filled the hall. The girl stepped forward, anger breaking through her fear. "You do not understand what they ask," she said. The trial was never meant to prove anything. It was meant to destroy. Her words were ignored. The clan parted as the elders led him down into the depths of the fortress. deeper than the torches reached. The girl followed, her footsteps echoing against stone. The air grew colder with each step, until even the breath from their lips turned white. At last they entered the chamber. The ceiling rose high into shadow, and the floor was a circle carved with runes far older than the clan itself. In the center lay a stone altar, cracked from ages past, its surface stained with what looked like old blood. The human's own runes burned brighter the moment he stepped inside. The elders lowered their heads and began to chant. The sound rolled like thunder, filling every space in the chamber. The girl stood at the edge, her heart pounding. She wanted to scream, to drag him out, but the weight of the place pressed her down. She could not move. She could only watch. The human stepped onto the circle, his hand pressed against his chest as the runes crawled across his skin, winding around his shoulders, his throat, his face. His vision blurred, his body trembled, and the ground shook as if the chamber itself was waking. He saw visions again, burning worlds, falling stars, shadows of beings that reached across time. But this time the visions did not pass. They stayed, pressing into his mind until he felt he would break. He fell to his knees, gasping, the runes burning like fire. The elders' voices rose higher, their chant almost a scream. The girl could not stand still any longer. She rushed forward, her hand catching his shoulder. The moment she touched him, the light changed. The runes spread from his body onto hers, glowing across her arms and chest. The chamber filled with a roar of energy. The elders staggered back in shock, their chant breaking. The girl cried out, but she did not let go. The human looked at her, his golden eyes wide. "Why would you do this?" Her voice shook, but her grip held firm. "Because you should not carry it alone." The light surged, brighter than fire, brighter than the stars. The runes on the floor lit in perfect harmony, and for the first time in centuries the prophecy was complete. The chamber shook, cracks splitting the stone. The clan outside the hall fell to their knees again as the fortress itself trembled. When the light faded, the human and the girl stood together at the center of the circle. Their bodies were scarred with glowing marks, their eyes burning with the same golden fire. The elders stared in silence, unable to speak. The prophecy had not chosen one, it had chosen two. The girl raised her head, her voice stronger than it had ever been. "No more trials. No more fear. If fate demands a bearer, then it has found us both. And together we will not kneel." The clan broke into cries, some of despair, some of devotion. The ground still shook, the runes still glowed, and the air itself seemed alive. The human stood tall, the burden heavy but no longer his alone. The fate he had never asked for was sealed, not by his blood alone, but by hers as well. And beyond the mountains, beyond the stars, something vast and ancient turned its gaze toward them. The story was no longer theirs alone. The prophecy had awakened, and it would not sleep again.